Okay, good morning. So round two of our last part of our lecture, and this we're going to go in the notes. And so I'm going to be looking at the notes. I'm going to start back on page 4. And even though maybe some of this is a repeat of what we did with the PowerPoint, making sure that you have the stuff in your notes as well. That PowerPoint's really good, especially working on that colonial identity one-pager, because that's really important. That's why that date 1763 is so important. So at the top of the page, we got William Pitt. William Pitt probably is the only other name that you need to know from the British side. He is the prime minister. He's the one that makes the deal. He's the one that says on the top of page 4, if you guys, if you colonial militias will help us out, we'll pay you back. And that is the only reason that the colonial militias worked so hard in this battle, was because they felt like they were going to get reimbursed salary, reimbursed weapons, reimbursed any of the monies that the assemblies paid for food. So the fact that that's not going to happen, I hope you understand, is going to be a really big deal. Battle of Quebec is a really important battle. Again, I'm just going to say, when we studied this in my 11th grade with our Canadian friends, this was a big thing for them, a really big deal. Honestly, never heard of the Battle of Quebec until, and I'm sure I heard about it before, but this is a big deal. Pitt appointed James Wolfe to take Quebec, and it is the most significant battle in British and American history as far as gaining and winning. And then at the end, we get the Peace of Paris, the Treaty of Paris. Again, that is like, we'll have so many treaties of Paris. This will be 1763 Treaty of Paris that ends the French and Indian War. France is removed from the continent, so there is no longer a threat of France. Spain becomes a big landholder, really holding more land than the British do at that point. And then let's make sure we see under K, Great Britain emerged as the dominant power in North America, as well as leading naval power. And that will be really important as we move into the Revolutionary War and our second Revolutionary War. I'm tying my shoe. The second Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, which again is a really important war. Not a lot of people know about that one either. Friction between colonies and Britain after the French and Indian War. This is, again, huge steps toward where we're heading in our next chapters and our next part of our history. Colonists emerged with war with increased confidence in their military strength. We fought alongside these guys. We're just as good as these guys, if not better, for fighting in the conditions that we're here. Colonial military leaders, angry few Americans, were promoted in the British Army. They felt like they were, even though, again, really important to understand that these colonists, while they called themselves colonists, it just represented the place where they lived. It didn't represent who they were. 100% they were English citizens, and they considered themselves Englishmen, and so they felt like they were being unfairly treated because of the place where they lived. British upset American shippers traded with the French and the British, and they did. So this is going to be something that we do a lot. And again, remember, I told you we're building this foundation of America, and that bottom fundamental bedrock layer is capitalism. And so while we're fighting against the French and the Spanish, we're also trading with them. We're also making money off of our enemies that we're fighting. The British don't like that, and it's really not a great idea to do, but we do it a lot, a whole lot. Enemy American Indians were aided by foodstuffs. British forbade export of all supplies from New England, and some colonists refused to supply troops, just said, we're not supplying you any troops at all. And at the bottom of page 4, really important, American westward colonial expansion increased significantly after the war. I put a big box around this because this is what's going to lead us at the beginning of the march to 1776. The French barrier west of the Appalachian was removed, so we don't have French people over there, so we can move on the other side of those mountains. Spanish and Indians, no longer a threat. And settlers say, we can move. This is what we fought for. We fought to get over the other side of the mountains, and those are the Appalachian Mountains. So now I'm turning the page. And on the top of page 5, what we get to is those last few little slides that I kind of went through really quickly because we're going to take a deeper look at that in our notes. And it's called Pontiac's Rebellion. And again, this is Pontiac. They are Indians. It is a rebellion in the Indians in this Ohio Valley. So American Indians in Ohio Valley, angered at the British treatment during the last few years of the French and Indian War, decide it's time to fight back. We're going to fight back. Chief Pontiac refused to surrender his lands to the British. So I'm not giving you my lands. That was a clear indication of how things were going to go. When the British said, hey, Indian, give us your land. And the Indian said, hey, how about no? Not going to do that. So Chief Pontiac led, and on page 5, the significance of this is D3. This is an Indian alliance. This is going to happen again in 1763. If this had happened 100 years earlier, whether they created an alliance between lots of Indians, our history would have been really different. But the first time they really try that is in 1763, and it just doesn't work. And it's just a little bit too late. I'm sorry. It works really well for the time being isolated, and they eliminate forts. They will kill lots of British soldiers, and it takes them about 18 months to get this under control. But one of the ways they get it under control, if you look at number 4, is germ warfare, right? The British realize with these Indians all working together, it's really difficult for us. We don't know how to fight them, and this is the British Army, not the colonial militia. We don't know how to fight them at all. And so they resort to what they know will work, and that's germ warfare. They give blankets with smallpox to these American Indians, and really that's what eliminates the rebellion, not warfare. And the rebellion will be subdued in October in 1763. So gigantic box around this last thing on page 5, the Proclamation of 1763. That is a really crucial event that leads us into the steps that will happen afterwards. So King George III says, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to fight with Indians. I lost 2,000 soldiers. Don't want to do that anymore. So let's just make nice with the Indians. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to tell the colonists, hey, you can't move over there. You can't move past the Appalachian Mountains. I'm drawing a line. And if you go back to that first recording and look at that PowerPoint, you see the proclamation line of 1763. It's a line, and it follows the Appalachian Mountains. And he said, King George said, you can't move past that line. Line drawn from Canada to Florida along the crest of the Appalachian Mountains. Intended to be temporary, just to solve, but that's not how the colonists saw that. The colonists see that as, hey, we just fought a war for you to allow us to move over that line and getting rid of the French. And now you say we can't move over that line. They are absolutely infuriated by that edict from the king, right? And it comes straight from the king. Hey, I'm drawing a line. You can't go past it. So we have people, like all times, people who, when they hear a rule, they do one of two things. They either abide by the rule, that would be me. I would not have gone anywhere near the proclamation line of 1763. King George, you say don't go, I'm not going. Then you have other people that say, oh, where's the line? Because I'm going to move right next to the line. And then, of course, you have people on which America is made of you draw a line, I am going to go over it. I'm going to show you what that line means. I'm going to go over it. And that's what the colonists did. They go over it. They are infuriated. 3A, many veterans fought in the war and felt betrayed. And 3B, let's throw in those capitalists again. Land speculators said the land was the birthright of British citizens. Underline, underline, underline. And for the most part, colonists ignored the proclamation line. Now, even though we ignored it and went over it and nothing really happened, it still made us really, really mad. Like, really mad. And so that ends that segment of that chapter in Chapter 6, The Duel for North America. So, spoiler, I don't know that it is a spoiler, Great Britain wins. I hope it's surprising to you, though, the strong presence still of Spain. Very strong presence of Spain that we're going to have to deal with in our upcoming chapters. All right, so that takes us to the end of our notes. So Thursday will be a lot of quizzes. So we will take our Chapter 6 quiz, we will take our terms quiz, and we will also take our first SAQ quiz for a grade. Now, before you take that, I will have returned to you with your quiz, your practice SAQ quiz with suggestions, tips, whatever you need. Some of you don't need anything. Some of you need a little more direction. So I will allow you to read that first and ask questions before we take the real SAQ for a grade tomorrow. So please make sure you are listening all the way to the end of this, and you know that tomorrow we have 3 quizzes. We don't have any lectures, and our test will be on Friday, which means all your assignments are due on Friday. So I hope you have a great Wednesday. Get all your stuff done. Email me if you have any questions, and I will see you tomorrow. Talk to you later. Bye.